and welcome back to The Give and Go. I'm your co-host Reynoso, here with my boy
Soltero. What's up, guys?
We are shooting live from the Mouget Art Studio in downtown LA. It's absolutely beautiful here. And it's due to a special occasion, man. We're doing something special here because we wanted to feature one of the most prominent voices in Los Angeles, one of the most prominent voices in the footballing space regarding the MLS. He is highly caffeinated, he is highly traveled, and he is decked out in some LA Galaxy gear. Folks, today we have a special guest, and it's none other than Eli Lesser. Eli Lesser,
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, my friend.
I am indeed caffeinated, and I'm ready to go. I'm excited to chop it up. I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing,
Thank you.
I'm excited to talk with you guys and pick your brains a little bit as well. So. Yeah, I'm excited.
No, yeah, I'm just really excited to have you on, man, simply because I think having voices specifically regarding the MLS, as Reynoso pointed out, I think is really special. And what you're doing is so cool, going to all of the stadiums. I think you just came back from Orlando, which, by the way, how was that? Let's start there. How'd that go? And when you go to these stadiums, do you have something specific that you'd like to hit every single time? Or do you kind of let the city itself kind of speak to you and show you what their team's all about?
For me, the biggest thing that I want to hit at each city is the atmosphere of the stadium and the supporter group specifically, because my goal with these trips is to showcase that, hey, we're doing it well in America, despite what all these Euro snobs are thinking. We get lit over here, and, we have genuine and authentic fan bases, because a lot of people, even people in America who are anti-MLS, they think, we're just like these franchises that pop up and nothing's genuine or authentic. And I just want to showcase the fact that, hey, we are here, we are amazing. And, Orlando is a great example because there may be a fan base that not a lot of people talk about as one of the better ones. And, I feel after yesterday that they are one of the most slept on fan bases that I've seen personally. You hear a lot about the LAFCs, the Cincinnatis right now, but Orlando, they've been doing it now for 8 years and they've been very successful with it. And, all this talk about Inter Miami right now, and what about the other Florida team,
Mm-hmm.
And I think Orlando, they're very, very excited actually about what's happening with Inter Miami because they want to beat them so badly. And I have a video that I'll release when they play each other in a couple weeks showcasing that. But it was just a super fun atmosphere to be on. And, I do think that Orlando's very slept on in terms of best MLS fan bases.
I remember when Orlando first came into the league, the first thing that I noticed about them was how rowdy their fans were, man. And especially coming from, honestly, a more low-key vibe with FC Dallas, when I saw Orlando's supporter group, I was like, oh, these guys are wild. And so, yeah, I think what you just said, slept on for sure, because you're right. I really don't hear a lot about that Orlando pride, that spirit that they have out there. So it's really cool that, you're highlighting that already. That's awesome, man.
Definitely. And one thing that was super cool about their supporter group is they had a whole section just with kids, in their wall. And the capos were kids. They were leading the chants. They were shouting swear words at Roman Berkey.
Dude,
it was amazing.
That's adorable, man.
Yeah,
they start them young.
Yeah, can I swear or no?
Yes.
Okay, so what they would do instead of, what certain fans say that's a slur, when Roman Berkey kicked it yesterday, they would go, "Fuck you, asshole!" These kids, these 10-year-olds, they'd all shout it together. It was so incredible to see because that's what you want. That's the passion, and that's what's gonna take MLS to the next level in future generations. It's getting to the kids. It's all about the kids. I don't really care about the boomers. That's why with the content I make, it's geared more towards a Gen Z audience. It's because it's all about getting the kids passionate about MLS and their city's clubs so that they pass it down to the next generation and the next generation, and then MLS can be as big as any other league.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually talking about this exact thing with producer Rudd yesterday because we went to an LA Galaxy game, and we can get into that in a bit. But, we really noticed that there's a lot of youth that goes to these Galaxy games. And for the exact same reasons that you just pointed out, I think it's so important that they get involved at this age because they're going to be the ones driving the club in 10, 20 years. And so, yeah, I think it's just a brilliant idea. And I think the MLS is doing it really, really right, man. But I also think it's for those reasons why the MLS is just going up and up and up as far as relevance and just the overall energy about this league.
Yeah, there was a poll released by 4Soccer the other day, or maybe I just saw a tweet about the other day, where they said among Gen Z audiences, the teams that they root for, the league that they like the most is MLS in America. So that's something that has
in comparison to
been
like the NBA and NFL.
Or no, in comparison to other soccer leagues.
Oh,
like
sorry.
Liga MX or like Premier League.
Yeah, it's for people, Gen Z, that MLS is the soccer league they like the most, and that's huge. So yeah, that gives me the hope for the future, and hopefully, I could grow with that fan base as well.
Part of what I'm seeing you in your exploration of all these clubs is that you're actively trying to go to every stadium that exists right now in the U.S. regarding football. How many have you gone to? Where are you at right now? What are the numbers?
After yesterday, it's 16 out of 29.
Okay.
And all of
this
those
season?
No.
Just
okay.
Overall, but since, the start of 2022, basically, because that's when I really started to travel. Before then, I was just, LA Galaxy, LAFC, those were the only stadiums I'd gone to. So it's really picked up the last couple of years. But yeah, 16 out of 29.
That's really impressive.
It's pretty cool.
That's really
I haven't been to Texas yet.
I was just about to ask, you haven't been to a single one?
Not yet. I really want to. I think probably Austin would be the first one I see, but I've liked Dallas for a while. Houston, because I'm a Galaxy guy, I have a little beef with the Houston Dynamo just throughout the years, little rivalries.
Little rivalry there.
But
Finals.
back to back. I do want to go to Texas. I haven't gone to Seattle yet, which is one of the more classic MLS fan bases nowadays.
Portland? Have you done Portland?
Portland. I went to MLS Cup in 2021 when
awesome.
they lost to NYCFC.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was an interesting one. I'd say it was a little overrated for me. I've told people a lot about that. Just because, when you're a supporters section, you want to be chanting no matter what all 90 minutes. And when NYCFC scored their first goal, the whole Timbers army, they were silent until the Timbers scored again in the stoppage time. And I was like, what is this? Except for, I would say, in terms of a casual crowd, like the crowd that wasn't part of the supporter section, loudest I've been in. Like, everyone was into it, maybe because it was MLS Cup, but it was great. I mean, I haven't had a really bad, actually, I haven't had a terrible experience at an MLS match. I'd say ones that I didn't like the most are pretty obvious ones, like Chicago, who just doesn't have a large fan base. And then NYCFC, just because I was watching soccer on a baseball field, and that was just tough.
Bizarre.
And it was a midday game, not a lot of people there, and I just don't like it.
Have you been to an Earthquakes game?
So I have not yet. I was supposed to go last year for Cali Classico, but then it got moved from June when I was supposed to go to October when I was back at school, so I couldn't go to it. But I'll try to get up to one of the Cali Classicos.
Yeah, I went to an Earthquakes game a couple years ago, and it was one of the most laid-back atmospheres that I have ever experienced at a pro sporting event. I'm not even talking just football. I'm talking about just in general. It was very relaxed, pretty quiet. Everyone was on a good vibe for sure, but it was just so relaxed. It was actually, I didn't like it personally.
Yeah, it sounds like a baseball game.
Yeah, honestly, most people weren't even in their seats. They were because they have this section where there's an enormous bar and there's actually a lawn, and there's a huge screen there too.
Yeah.
So people just kind of chill there more so than they were in their actual seats. And I was like, that's interesting. I don't know if I like it, but the stadium itself was beautiful. But yeah, the atmosphere not so much.
Yeah, I mean, as a Galaxy fan, I'm like, haha, San Jose, smallest team in the league or whatever, But, I guess if I were to go up to a match, it wouldn't be at that stadium because they always play the Galaxy at the Stanford Stadium, not at Avaya.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever. I don't even know what it's called now. But But I've always wanted to check out that stadium. I've seen it from outside, but I've not gone in.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I get it. They might not be as passionate. And that's a kind of a glaring issue with a lot of the more OG fan bases in MLS because they've been there for so long. A lot of the teams aren't as ambitious as some of the newer clubs entering the league. It is a problem across the entirety of MLS overall, but then you have a couple of the OG teams, Galaxy, I'll be biased, and then Columbus is doing a great job where they're very active fan bases. But you look at yesterday with what happened at Red Bull Arena with Red Bulls versus Inter Miami, there were no Red Bull fans there. It was the first time they've packed their stadium in years, and there were like no Red Bull fans except for in the wall.
Makes sense if you think about it.
Does.
Yeah.
But it's just a shame how, a team could be in the biggest market for almost 30 years now, and, they're not filling up a stadium for their own team.
Yeah, I think the MLS, not the MLS, the Leagues Cup final really showed that, because we're talking about two teams that were vying for their first trophy in their history, and Inter Miami and Nashville SC. That's crazy to me, because I was really looking into it. I was like, bro, they just started up their clubs like just a few years ago. Where are the OG clubs at? Where's that traditional MLS perspective or foothold in the league that I would hope they would have? But these new clubs, even Austin FC having a really good second year in the season and us getting to witness that firsthand, I thought was really impressive. And so I hope that these new clubs can kind of sort of reinvigorate the older teams to kind of keep themselves motivated and established to continue rising at a really rapid pace. Like I'd say like New England Revolution is doing pretty good at that too right now. They're one of the older teams in the league that's done really well. FC Dallas remaining competitive. But
Definitely.
Then there's other teams like, San Jose, where you get some really interesting.
Colorado, bro.
Colorado.
Rough. I the only time I'll willingly watch a Colorado Rapids match is when they play the Galaxy. It's really hard to watch them, and it sucks because you want to, as a fan of an OG team, you really want to see these OGs, stay relevant in the league, and a lot of the owners are just very complacent just being in the league, and that brings up the whole promotion relegation debate, which we don't need to get into, but it's just tough seeing teams go down like that, and the Galaxy, especially the fans, are doing everything possible to make sure that that's not our destiny.
Have you ever thought about the idea of relocation for MLS teams? Because I think a team like Colorado, for example, or even like, not to that same extent, but even FC Dallas, because Dallas doesn't really have like a committed fan base or a rowdy one at that. And I've always wondered, like, what if a team like Colorado, even though they're definitely an OG team, what if they, relocated or gave their franchise to, for example, like New Mexico United or something like that, where they have a genuine fan base. I love
New Mexico. I've been there.
Same. Yeah, it was an awesome atmosphere. Also at a baseball stadium, though, I think.
Yes,
yeah.
That was at a AAA, but it was better than the New York NYCFC experience, because it felt like an actual soccer stadium. But
yes. So when I see Colorado and it's just empty, or even like Houston Dynamo on certain nights when it's just empty, I'm like, damn, like. They have soccer-specific stadium, which is great. They have the history, which is great. But I just wish the fan bases would be better. And I'm just like, damn, like there are clubs out there and cities out there that would definitely make up for that and have the fan base there. And then from there, you can build a team and you can build more history. So I just wonder, like, does that bother you that Colorado's empty? Or do you just see it as something that really can't be changed? I don't know.
I think they can be changed, but it has to be done the right way. And, I would say I'm down for relocation. However, there's a reason why those teams are there in the first place, because those are the big media markets. Houston, a Chicago.
Yeah.
There's no reason for them to be this irrelevant in their own cities. I went to Chicago a couple years ago, and I went to 7 different sports stores in the city, and there was not a single piece of Chicago Fire merch at any of them.
Oh, my God.
And that's awful. I mean, you're the 3rd biggest market in the U.S. Houston's the 4th. There's, like, no excuse, especially because Houston has a stadium downtown.
I know.
And I thought, having Hector Herrera would, help bring in more fans, and it just hasn't. And I just don't know how to fix that. But there's no way I see MLS relocating any of those franchises just because of the markets they're in, and they just have to find a way to work. Like we mentioned with the Red Bulls, there's just maybe relocating into the city, which I don't think the Red Bulls will do, but maybe for Dallas, if they could find a way to get more into actual Dallas.
Right.
I know people complain about the Galaxy, they're not in actual LA, but like that's different because I don't think we're struggling that way. We're struggling more on the front office standpoint, not with the fans, and we're always going to get people at matches. But it's a very tough question, because does a team like New Mexico deserve to have a shot at MLS? I'd say yes, 100%, but it isn't a big market in comparison to some of these huge markets that are just really struggling. It's all about the marketing. It's all about how they present themselves to the city. And I just think, like I said, the best word is to say complacent. They're just happy that they're here, and there's nothing else above that for them. And I think that's why so many people may critique MLS in some ways, but I try to focus on the teams that are thriving and that stuff. And then, when I post a video about a team being booty, then it does better for me engagement wise. But I try to stay on the positives.
Right.
But it's because I am a voice for the league, even though I'm not paid by them. Pay me MLS.
Yeah, come on.
But it is a tough pill to swallow. But it's just so unfortunate seeing a lot of these older clubs in these big markets just not finding a voice in their city.
Just to kind of, I guess, acknowledge the biggest positive that the MLS has seen. I mean, the shining light right now, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I'm sure you already talked about it, but Messi coming to the MLS, getting the GOAT to come play in the States. What's your reaction in terms of the impact that he's going to have on the league? He himself coming down here, the impact on the culture, what you've been seeing so far in like the ticket sales and ticket prices. What do you think overall about this Messi mania that's happening in the MLS?
Yeah, so I know a lot of MLS fans that aren't Inter Miami fans. They're very pissed off about it in a way, just because they're like, oh, all the focus is on Messi now, all of this. But I'm just like, come on, guys. He's Messi. He's literally the GOAT of the sport. Like, I'm so happy he is here. First of all, from like a selfish perspective, my numbers have gone through the roof since he's been here. But also just in general, being able to have the greatest to ever play the sport accessible almost to anyone. I mean, price-wise, not really, but just him being in this country, us being able to watch him on a weekly basis in our time zones. The way that the season pass has doubled in subscribers since, this is huge for the league. And I think what Messi brings to the league is not just, thinking on an outer perspective, he's going to help just make the league as a whole better, because bringing Messi into the league, I think of what happened when David Beckham came to MLS and how all these big rule changes came when Beckham. The reason why we have a designated player rule is because of David Beckham, and I think Messi's going to drive more changes for the league, maybe more designated player spots. They're talking about, increasing the salary cap by 30% next season. These are all huge for the entirety of the league. The whole league benefits from it. And sure, maybe in the short term, we might see a lot of domination from Inter Miami, but in the long term, this is going to help MLS tremendously, and it's going to help the league, grow its quality on the field, and that's always going to lead to more quality off the field as well. The more money that's being pumped in because of Messi, the better. That's how MLS has always worked. It's always been about how much money can the league make and how they could disperse it amongst the clubs, because it is a single entity. So having Messi here is just absolutely huge from that perspective. And I'm hoping that he can it sucks because Saudi Arabia is taking a lot of players that I was hoping would come to MLS. But I'm hoping that he draws more players to come here. You think, we mentioned Chicago, a player that could absolutely revitalize that club is like a Robert Lewandowski. He's a big Polish international. They have a huge Polish population. If I'm Chicago, now with Messi and potentially all these rule changes, I'm doing everything possible to bring him in next year or something. And I feel like he's less of an ego guy and think he would come to MLS over the Saudi League. But, stuff like that, what might benefit one team right now will benefit the whole league in the long term. And I think some fans need to think about that more.
Yeah, it's tough to hear these clubs complain when they're making so much money just by hosting them, So like at the end of the day, everyone does benefit. And I think I'm also on that same page. I want to see who ends up coming alongside him outside of the Barca bandits that we've been seeing with Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets joining. What other stars like Lewandowski or, kind of in their middle 30s will come down over here to continue their career and follow that path that Messi was on?
Yeah, I completely agree with your point, because I have the same one or the same reaction when I've seen the impact that Messi has had, in the sense that I think if these MLS teams start to target more European players that, maybe they're not like 24, 25, but, 30, 31 in that age range, players that are known, like maybe fans here don't watch them on a weekly basis, but they at least know who they are. If any franchise could just get one of them, I do think that it would actually increase the attraction for fans that actually go to the game. Like, just a name like Paulo Dybala. I think he could be an immediate attraction for any franchise here in the league. And all of a sudden, we have Dybala, and now people are going to be like, oh, well, let's go catch a game. Like, I just think a singular name that is just even known could really help. And I think Messi's obviously the extreme example of that, but still proof that just one player who's known can actually have a huge impact for a fan draw.
Yeah, and the last thing I want is for all those big names to join Messi in Miami. I think it'd be better if they're kind of dispersed, allocated throughout the league. I mean, MLS is known for allocation, but allocating, you know, all these big names throughout the league so that you create these big-time matchups, you know? I really wanted Neymar to come to MLS instead of Saudi League. I still think he will come to MLS maybe after that. But, you know, we could have had like a Neymar versus Messi matchup, and I guess that's what's happening in the Saudi League. You got Benzema versus Ronaldo and stuff like that. But, you know, having these players dispersed around different markets, I really wanted Chucky Lozano to come to MLS, even if it was an LAFC. I was really hoping for him to come here because he's a player that is in his prime, and that would be huge for the league. Not necessarily for El Tri, but I don't really care about that. But, you know, that would, you know, players like that would be just tremendous. And I'm in the minority, and this is my hot take.
Go for it.
I'm in the minority where I think Christian Pulisic's coming here after 2026.
Okay.
I know it's a hot
after
take.
2026.
After 2026, I know he'll still be in his prime years, but with if the league can grow the way I hope it does, and a lot of us hope it does by 2026, and with 2026, I could see a lot of the U.S. guys, you know, taking huge bags, coming back to America, making a statement, being like, "Hey, we see MLS. MLS is here. We want to come home, play." You know, Pulisic on the Philadelphia Union. I don't know. I don't really know about that, but you know, it's just like something like that. I know he'll be in his prime years, and I know USMNT fans are going to be pissed off at me for saying this. But, you know, I could see something like that happening, you know, with hopefully the growth that the game sees with the World Cup.
I'd absolutely love that, man. After the USA goes to the semifinals in the 2026 World Cup, I think a lot of the players, the MLS is already going to be at a huge point. We're going to have hosted one of the best World Cups of all time. And so Christian Pulisic is going to be like, you know what, let me just stay here, enjoy it, and, you know, make money. And the league's going to be huge, and it's going to just keep growing. So, yeah, you know what, I'm with you. Let's bring Pulisic after the 2026 to the MLS.
Yeah, and real quick, for anyone who's doubting this take of mine, just know that in 1994, when, you know, the U.S. hosted the World Cup, that's what really drove MLS's creation in the first place. So you saw that growth from that. And now just imagine having Messi here, having Copa America here, having the Men's World Cup here, having the Women's World Cup here. Just imagine what's going to happen with the sport in this country with that, with social media. You know, we didn't even have social media back in 1994. So just imagine the growth that's going to come from these next few years. And it's so awesome for, you know, all of us here to be in this space right now. There's no better time to be a media person in soccer or just being a fan in America. It's really a beautiful thing, and I'm so, like, I don't know, I get chills every time I think about it.
You're giving me chills right now. That's beautiful.
I get those same chills, man. It's incredible. Yeah, I'm with you 100%, dude.
And something I wanted to point out kind of during the points you're making, like potential transfers and people that could come to the U.S. And something that I really like so far that I've been seeing, especially during the Leagues Cup, is that even if these players don't come and, you know, you don't get Lewandowski or Chucky Lozano, there's already like some awesome matchups you get to see in terms of people that get to face off against Messi. Like, for example, Luciano Acosta in that U.S. Open Cup game stepped the fuck up to a crazy level to where it was Acosta versus Messi. And I was like, man, that's so dope for him specifically in his career and how he got into like this moment. And I can't help but think that if you're a player, like, wouldn't you be a little jealous if you're not in the MLS and you're seeing like a guy like Luciano Acosta get highlighted like that because he has a chance to shine and play his fucking heart out against the GOAT? Likewise, we saw it in the final with Hani Mukhtar, was like the guy that stepped up with like the poster boy for like who's going to face off against Messi, who's going to match his level. Nearly every MLS team has at least one player. Like even yesterday, Chicago Fire, bro. They still have Shaqiri threading the needle if he can and playing at his best when he has the proper teammates. But there's still talent on damn near every single team that if there's more players that come and join that, it's just going to propel that matchup, those rivalries into a upper echelon that's going to create even better TV. But I do think the MLS is already giving us really good entertainment.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
And this actually brings, you know, the amount of passion you have for the MLS, I absolutely love it. And I said at the beginning, you know, I do think the voice that you have is so powerful because I don't really see it that often when it comes to just the MLS. What's your origin story, man?
Yeah.
What's the cornerstone in your life? Did you go to USA game and you're like, oh, okay, I'm all USA? Like, what happened?
Yeah, no. So for me, I'm like, you know, actually, that's a great point because it all makes sense as to why I'm so passionate. You know, I got into the sport because of MLS and because of the LA Galaxy. I didn't know what soccer was or football. I say soccer because I follow MLS because Major League Soccer.
I say both.
But, you know, I didn't fall in love with the sport until David Beckham. Or I didn't know about the sport until David Beckham came to the Galaxy. And I had a grandpa who was a huge European football fan, and he wanted to go see David Beckham play. And boom, became a lifelong Galaxy fan right there. So it all started, with the LA Galaxy. It started off slow for me. I liked it when I was there, and then a few years later, I started to really get into it, especially around the time we had Robbie Keane, because Robbie Keane, to me, is like my absolute favorite Galaxy player ever.
Hell of a player.
And just his goal celebration, all of that. And then what really made me fall in love with the sport as, this is the sport I want to, cover for the rest of my life, because I actually always wanted to be a sports broadcaster. That was my dream from a little kid. And I was a huge baseball guy, and then I went to a broadcasting camp, and everyone else wanted to be the next Vin Scully, who was the voice of the Dodgers. And I learned about how competitive it is, and I'm like, oh my God, everyone here wants to be the next Vin Scully. And I realized I was the only person at that camp that talked about soccer a little bit. I was not the biggest soccer guy yet, but I was the only person that knew it. So I made it my mission to come back to that camp the next year as the soccer guy, as the MLS guy. And that's actually what started This Week in MLS. I created a page where I just posted about MLS news, and I was like, I am the MLS guy. And now 8 years later, this is where we're at. But yeah, it really started with the Galaxy. Started with me watching the supporter section at the LA Galaxy, which features the Angel City Brigade, which I've since joined as a personal decision, not a business. It actually is not a great business decision, but personally, I really needed, that to help continue the passion for what I do. Anytime I feel burnt out, when I go to a Galaxy game and I'm in the supporter section, that just always revives, the energy for what I'm doing. I started watching the sport because of MLS and then the U.S. men's national team, and then it grew to what it is today for me. But I've always had a hard time connecting with a club across the world. Because I don't have a personal connection to like a Premier League team. Wow, I've never been able to develop it because I can't just go to a match every week. You know, that's the beauty of MLS for me is I could go to a Galaxy match every single week when they're in town, and I can't just fly to Manchester and go to a United match. Right. And then I have a personal connection with some clubs in other countries because of family reasons, but I know the Premier League is the best league in the world quality-wise, but I just have a hard time watching sometimes because I don't have a personal...
A little disconnect.
Yeah, I feel disconnected. So that's why I'm such a huge MLS guy. I really want to see, the game grow here. And one thing that's maybe a bit controversial about how I view the league is I'm more focused as an American sports fan on getting MLS to the level of the NFL and NBA than the Premier League and Bundesliga. I want it to be, the most prominent in America as like a top 3 sports league here rather than, I think they'll go hand to hand. If it's a top 3 sports league in America, it's probably a top 3 soccer league. But, I've always been focused on, making it, a top league in America. How do I appeal to the American sports fan? I think that's kind of what MLS is trying to do. But that's how I fell in love with the game. And then I actually started playing post 2007. So I was already 7 years old. So I was behind, I guess, because a lot of kids start AYSO when they're like 4 or 5. Yeah. But I was always a baseball player growing up. But I just always loved watching soccer way more and the LA Galaxy way more.
Wow, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. I honestly am tearing up a little bit because you have an incredibly emotional connection to the game. Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah, he was telling me we were off camera one time. He was like, we've just had a string of features where they've been more knowledgeable about Liga MX or like the Hispanic Latino game. But we were talking like, man, we need to get like an MLS guy. And I was like thinking about it. I was like, I think I might have a guy. I was like, maybe Eli Lesser. And then he checked out your page and everything. But the same question came up, like, why? Like, why are you so passionate about something that is so often criticized or belittled? Right. We've kind of gone through that same path, just being football fans in general, I think, because since the NBA and the NFL is so strong here, if you don't support or if you're not passionate or die hard about any teams in those leagues, people can be surprised. And since we cover soccer full time, we kind of get that same reaction too. But it's nice to hear that your story kind of comes from a similar cloth, if that makes sense. It's kind of like the same world, but just in a different different city, man. Like,
yeah, it's
like,
kind of just like, you know, I viewed it as like, how do you become a Dodger fan as a kid? How do you become a Laker or Clipper fan as a kid? That's how I became a Galaxy fan. It wasn't necessarily about the sport, it was about the city and that connection. You know, this is my local team. I want to support them. But yeah, and it's funny because the criticisms and stuff about MLS, when I got into it, I had no idea that the rest of the world hated us. I didn't know there was
it was like so.
I didn't know that there was anything bigger than it, you know, because for me, I knew of these teams. I knew like Chelsea exists. I think my grandpa was a Chelsea fan. I don't like Chelsea.
Yeah.
But I knew those teams existed. I didn't realize how massive they were. I was kind of in my LA bubble. To me, the Galaxy, and you know, a lot of Galaxy fans, rightfully so, think we are the biggest club in the world.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, biggest club in MLS. But that's kind of all I knew. You know, that's what my view of the sport was. It was the LA Galaxy and MLS. I didn't know too much about what was going on everywhere else.
Wow. Okay. So at an early age, you decided to just pick up MLS and go all in. You don't. I guess that's the thing. We can talk about that. How is the scene out here in LA when it comes to Galaxy or, you know, even LAFC? Because, you know, growing up in the Dallas area, kind of, it's a little lonely. It's a little lonely out there. Even in Austin, like, there's not much footy talk when it comes to the MLS. It really is Liga MX oriented out in Texas, truly. So I guess, I mean, already going to the LA Galaxy game yesterday, I was like, oh, this vibe is completely different. These fans really care about the club here. So it was really awesome to witness because it's just, you know, a little different down over there in Texas.
Yeah, so first of all, the scene in general for all leagues, football-wise, incredible here in LA. I'd say this is probably there's all these MLS cities being like, oh, we're the soccer capital of America. I'm like, bullshit. LA is the soccer capital. Maybe I'm just biased, but everyone is a huge soccer fan, football fan, whatever you want to say. And the LA Galaxy, LAFC rivalry is just tremendous here. It's absolutely massive here. You saw 82,000 at the Rose Bowl on 4th of July. I was there. Best match I've ever been to in my life.
Man.
But it is huge here. However, I will say, as much as I want to say El Tráfico is the biggest thing in this city, I still think the biggest rivalry is Club America and Chivas. In LA, just, you know, with fans, because there is such a huge Mexican population here, and they are obviously very passionate about those two clubs. That is the biggest rivalry in LA still. But, you know, LA Galaxy, they've done a tremendous job at making their mark in the city. LAFC, with such a short time, they've done a pretty good job as well. I mean, they've done a great job. I'm just going to say pretty good job. But, you know, it's all about just having all this accessible to just an LA sports fan and just an LA soccer fan. And you see so many, you know, people who were Liga MX fans go to LAFC games, go to LA Galaxy games, and then they're fans of those teams now. My biggest thing with MLS in general, and the easiest way to get someone interested in the sport, is literally just by getting them to a match. Everyone who goes to an MLS match loves it, unless maybe you go to a San Jose. But,
right.
You know, just everyone who actually attends a soccer match, they end up falling in love with it. I know so many people have become like season ticket holders just because I took them to one match. And other people have taken them to one match. I hear that even with like Angel City FC, a ton of people, you know.
Yeah, we've been recommended that like 3 times already.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We have.
And
so
I
we
think
need to
that's
go.
one like crazy takeaway I had yesterday was like there's so much that goes on. Maybe I don't know if it's just LA Galaxy, but like especially the way you guys host a match, you got Cosmo, right?
Yeah.
Going crazy on the sound. You can watch him for a full 90 minutes and be entertained. You don't have to watch the match if you don't want to. If you watch the match, you're going to see greatness and Ricky Pooch feeding these incredible balls out to the wings, creating amazing opportunities. It's beautiful to see. And then halftime, you have people winning trips to Fiji, right? By just doing some crazy games. Afterwards, even after the game was over, they had a Special Olympics
the unified team, they're awesome.
game going on too. I was like, bro, there's so much going on in the stands and the conversations with other people and the vibes, the food, the energy. Like, even if you don't even like soccer, it's a fun event to go to. And that's going to end up, I think, benefiting anybody who's not truly interested in the sport going in, but leaves it a fanatic.
Vibes are always immaculate at MLS matches. There's always something for anyone. You know, my dad personally, he doesn't like sports at all, but he even enjoys going to MLS matches. My mom is actually the huge sport fan. She's coming with me to Angel City after this.
Dope.
But Yeah, there really is something for everyone to enjoy. You know, even when I was a little kid and I didn't quite understand what was going on in soccer, I was just mesmerized by the LA Galaxy supporter section. I would just sit and watch them, see what they were doing, stuff like that. I mean, it's just a different vibe than any other sport, and I think that's the beauty of it, and that's what, you know, brought me into it and and grew my passion for it and my passion for wanting to cover it.
This is a personal question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any opinion on Sporting Kansas City? Any opinion at all? I'm just curious.
Why are you guys negative on them?
No, I just want to know what you have to say. That's it. I just want to know. Like,
careful, man.
No positivity, no negativity
right
coming from me. I do just want to know. Do you have any take on Sporting KC?
All right. So as a team, or as how they're doing, I said from the beginning when they were struggling that I thought that they would come back and be a dark horse contender, and they kind of have been doing that. I originally called Alan Pulido a bust for them, and ever since then he's been lighting it up. I have a curse where if I say someone's doing bad or a team is doing bad, they turn it around.
Okay.
That's just how it is. Every team I predict to win loses. I predicted Toronto FC to be in MLS Cup this year. That's definitely not happening.
Definitely not, yeah.
Sporting Kansas City. I'm going to try to... I don't have negative opinions. That's the thing.
Okay,
Old rivalries back in the day. But... I'd say I am half Israeli, and they have an Israeli player, Gadi Kinda, who's an Ethiopian Jew, which is pretty cool. And then I hear they're great with away fans.
Okay.
They're welcoming to away fans, at least Galaxy fans. I don't know. I was originally going to go to a Galaxy away match there last year, and then I ended up doing something else. But I'm just wondering what you have to say about Sporting. I'm trying to be very diplomatic.
No.
He's towing that line.
Yeah.
I don't even know what he's about.
No. It's actually nothing crazy. So my entrance into the MLS was through Sporting KC.
Okay, yeah. They've had legends.
They've had so many good players winning it. I think in 2013, the MLS Cup, and you know my take is I think that team that they had between like 2012 and 2015.
Matt Beasler, Graham Zusi.
Matt Beasler, Seth Sanovic, a young Roger Espinoza, Benny Feilhaber.
That's my king right there. I love him.
One of did not get the love he deserved under Klinsmann's regime that he had under the U.S. men's national team.
Don't get me started on that. Yeah, I was very passionate about that.
Yeah. And then Dom Dwyer, one of the most interesting MLS forwards. I still don't know if he's good or not. But, you know, he was good enough to get all the way to the final, score goals, and he was an incredible player when he was on it. And then, in my opinion, one of the most underrated wingers, Graham Zusi. Graham motherfucking Zusi, bro.
That team was stacked.
That team was stacked, bro. Absolutely stacked. One of my favorite players, I don't even know how to describe Zusi's play, but he's just so underrated, so technical. Not the fastest guy, but, you know, he's gonna beat you one-on-one if he gets the opportunity in his prime. And I absolutely loved it. And, you know, him going to the World Cup in 2014 was big for me because right before that, I think Sporting KC was just so big in the MLS at that time. And the fact that Zusi got called up and a team of, you know, largely, you know, still European-based players and what the U.S. has always done, especially under Klinsmann, right?
Yeah.
For Zusi to get a starting position, get like 2 assists in the group stage was beautiful to see because I was like, oh, the MLS has some studs. And looking at where we are right now, it's just so much growth. And, you know, my ultimate take is I think Sporting KC has done so much for the league from a technical perspective because that team under Peter Vermees, unstoppable when they were on it.
And I feel bad for not mentioning them earlier, but they're also an MLS OG that's still kind of hanging on. You know, they're still, you know, they're still lit. They have a huge crowd always. I love when I went to St. Louis. I actually went to St. Louis last week. How many Kansas City fans were being like, "Oh, you're going to our swamp. You're going to our backyard." Like they're going to our, you know. Even Chicago fans are like, "You're going to our shitty suburb." You know, like it's great to see that. And yeah, Kansas City fans have been pretty nice to me over the years. Sorry, I was very diplomatic earlier because I thought you were about to like trash Sporting Kansas City or something. But no, I'm happy to see them still being, you know, a somewhat relevant team in the league. It's great to see. And yeah, the 2014 World Cup, that was very monumental for me, I'd say, for really wanting to start covering the league and stuff. I mean, I'll always think about that Jermaine Jones goal. That's like, he's my favorite USMNT player of all time simply because of that moment. And when he came to MLS right after, I mean, it was just a great time. to be an MLS fan, and Galaxy won MLS Cup that year. But but yeah, it was that was a great year. So that was 2014, and I started my page in 2015.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was entering high school when I started it, and that's around the time period I started, and that to me was peak MLS. 2014, 2015, and 2016. Those were my favorite years of the league, and when I was like really like the biggest nerd possible of it. And then all these teams started coming in the league. It's harder as the years go on to stay up to date with every single team.
Dude, it's really difficult.
Yeah, when I started, there were 19, 20 teams in the league. Now there's 29, and that's a whole 30-man roster I have to learn every single year when a new team comes into the league. So it's been harder for me to stay on top of everything, and everyone always DMs me like, oh, what did you think about this match? What do you think about that match? It's so hard for me to pinpoint certain moments of every match. I used to be able to watch every single match in MLS, and now with the way Apple currently has it set up, I can't watch like any match ever because they're all on at the same time. So I'm focused on like posting highlights or whatever, and then I'll always watch the Galaxy. I'll always set aside that, but it's harder for me to stay on top of everything. But yeah, the 2014, that was peak existence for me. Galaxy, New England Revolution, MLS Cup final, I was there. It's funny because I'm a Galaxy fan, but my favorite players ever were on the Revs then. I love Lee Win. And then Jermaine Jones. I just love those two guys. It sucks that we had to beat them, but it was the best match I've ever. One of the best matches. I'd even say the Rose Bowl this past year topped it. But that's around the time. I forgot what the question was.
That's crazy though. That was a good time in your life, because I think that kind of translates to us as well. 2014 was amazing for this guy, and you can go into that in a second. But for me, even
changed my life.
The fact right before Noel Penal happened, it was a great year for me. Right, I was on a great time seeing that Mexico team do really well in the World Cup, and likewise in Liga MX level, and also kind of getting more into the European game. It was a great time in my life too. But 2014, I mean, for this guy, big Costa Rica fan.
Yeah, I was a big Costa Rica fan. I was just all in on CONCACAF, and CONMEBOL too, which is hilarious because I have a very anti-CONMEBOL perspective now. But back then, I was actually very pro CONMEBOL, right? And so just seeing even the USA, Mexico, every team in Latin America, and the US included, went off in that tournament. So it was like really big for my development because similar to like the Graham Zusi take, oh, MLS has studs. I was like, oh, CONCACAF we got some studs out here. We just gotta band them together, give them some hope, and then put them in a World Cup, and then magic happens. And so the festivities of 2014 just really, really cemented my love for the sport. And then from there, I haven't looked back. It's just getting stronger and stronger every day. Now we have the Give and Go, and we'll see where we are in 5-10 years.
That's cool that you started in 2015 though. One of our biggest regrets is that we didn't start earlier.
Yeah,
we just started like less than 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, so do you guys know there's an Instagram page called All Sports News?
I don't think I've heard of that one.
Heard of it.
Or well, my phone's off, but it was this. It is still this sports news account that has like one photo in the middle, then a white border and a whiteboard on bottom, and in the white borders they had the text. So that's how I started posting MLS highlights. I mean, when I started my page, there was no one covering MLS on Instagram other than the MLS account. So I saw that there was that space that needed to be filled, and I wanted to fill it. And then I actually didn't start making videos till 2020, the pandemic, because I was a broadcasting major at Syracuse, and we were sent home. I was at a rough point just mentally because I got into a lot of stuff my freshman year at school, and then I cleaned up. That's the nicest way to say what happened. I cleaned up when the pandemic hit, and I realized, hey, I'm not doing anything right now to benefit me as a broadcaster, as a personality. And I had just taken a class that kind of taught me how to use Premiere. And I was like, you know what? If I want to make this work, I need to be making content that will help me make this work. Wow. And that's when I started making my videos. It started out as like IGTV videos before TikTok really blew up. So I used to make like 5-minute videos 3 times a week. And now with the whole IG Reels and TikTok boom, I make 2 to 3 a day, and that's what my content is right now. But yeah, I didn't start making videos until 2020. So the first 5 years, I was just posting straight news graphics. And that helped me a lot, growing the following. And then I'm glad it stuck around since I moved to video. It went down for a while, and then it really came back up. And, I'm having my biggest boost since Messi's arrived. So that's very fun.
I'm curious then, with all the work you put in towards promoting the American game here, the MLS, have they ever reached out or tried to, offered you a job, or have you applied to an open vacancy they might have? Any sort of relationship there with the MLS?
So I do have a good relationship with MLS. They are very aware of who I am, which is very nice.
That's good.
I'm allowed to post anything from the league, whether it's highlights or anything, no problem. I post all these highlights with no copyright because they know me. Also, they're fine with it because they're just happy someone's promoting them. They're happy to be here.
I love that, man. I love that. The Premier League and La Liga and any
you
European
get instantly taken down.
Instantly, but MLS and even just NBA too, they also allow highlight posting and stuff. Yeah. I think that's so big for creators and just people in general to attract them towards the game.
Yeah, and they do know who I am, and I actually, so the thing is with vacancies, I don't think there really is a position that they have there that specifically fits what I want. I've talked to them. I did have an interview there kind of telling them what I want to do with them, and it would be being their social media host or something to start out. But the biggest thing they told me was to be patient, and it's tough now that you're out of school and you need to really make money now, because I want this to be full time. I don't want to have a normal job, and I don't want to pick up a side job because that will lessen the content flow. So they just said to be patient, but thankfully, I'm employed basically by Body Armor this year. And last year, that's how I'm able to go to all these matches. They help me get to those, and they pay me for that. It's great money for someone who is not paying rent, and it was great college money. But now that I'm out of college, and I am living with my parents still, but it's only been a couple months, so I'm not like a bummy bum yet. But if I to move out, I am gonna need to see more money, and I've thought about it with MLS. It's part of me thinks hey, they do really like me, they might hire me at some point. But then I've also thought about it in more of a pessimistic way, where they're I'm already doing this for free for them. Why would they want to pay me to do what I'm doing? So that's kind of where I see the negative. And I'm even considering, dropping the name This Week in MLS after this season, so that I'm just Eli Lesser making MLS content, but less tied down. Because I feel like the older I get, without being paid by MLS, me having the name MLS in my name is more cringe.
Free promo too.
Exactly. So it's if I drop the name, it's kind of just your move MLS, your turn to do something about it. But I would love to work for the league. I would love to work anywhere I can, making a decent amount talking about the league. It doesn't have to necessarily be there specifically. But I think just with MLS in general, I think they need to allow for young bloods and new blood, because I feel like my only critique about the talent they have, and they have great talent there, but they've stuck with the same talent for years and years and years. And when the season pass was announced, we could already name drop everyone who was going to be on it. There was nobody really new to it. And I think if the league wants to promote itself to more of a Gen Z audience, that For Soccer poll that I mentioned earlier seems like that's where the league can head. Why not get me? But maybe that's just me being egotistical or anything, but just I the reason why I started so young with This Week in MLS is because when I was at that broadcasting camp, they literally told me all these people are going to be looking for people to take their jobs that have 5-10 years of experience in the field, and you're supposed to have that by the time you're 20. I'm that seems impossible. And then I was you know what, I'm gonna try to do this. So I have, even though I am fresh out of college, and I think MLS is scared to hire someone straight out of college, I have been doing this for 8 years now. So it's I don't know. I don't know where I'm heading in the future, but I just really hope that I can make this work out. But if I don't see kind of enough of a uptake in money, I just won't be able to last, whether I want to or not, because I need to start my life now that I'm 23 and out of college. But we're really hoping that this can work out. MLS does say they like me and stuff. It's just I guess about fit for them, and them figuring out what I could provide for them. But I know what I can provide for them. I've told them that. But, I guess they have to discuss that too.
Yeah. No, I hope that in the future there's that opportunity that arises for you, because you do have an incredible ability to cover all these teams, all these matches, and make it entertaining, man. Like, the way you're not scared to talk shit to the other teams, the way you're not scared to praise other teams and just create entertaining content, it's rare. I think that's why Soltero's so surprised right now, because we haven't really met, I don't think ever, another person that is as passionate about the MLS as you are. And kind of like something I was thinking about when you talk about like going to that baseball camp and realize like maybe I should cover a different sport. Casemiro, growing up in Brazil, went to like I don't know if it was like a training camp, but like a youth facility, and everyone there apparently wanted to be a forward, and so they were like, does anyone want to be a midfielder? And Casemiro, one of the greatest in his positions of all time, was like, fuck it, I'll do it since everyone else is doing the other thing. You might be the Casemiro of sports punditry or whatever it might be.
Well, one thing just in my life in general, like I've always tried to be different. I don't like things just because other people like them. That goes with like the TV shows I watch, the music I listen to. I've always wanted to be different. Has that helped me socially in my life? Not so much. But
there with you.
I just love, being my own thing, finding my own interests, and have that be, authentic to me. So that was a big draw to MLS as well, because so many people don't like MLS, and they are big fans of other leagues and stuff, and they clown on MLS. But I think that also brought a relatability for me in MLS in general. So I'm very very blessed to have had the opportunities to travel around and meet other kids like me, because a big thing with my followers and stuff, I really want to appeal to the kids who were just like me when I was 15 starting my page. So like my biggest demographic are like 14 to 18-year-old dudes, awesome. The little nerd dudes that, might not have the most friends at school, because that was me, and I want to like appeal to those guys. I want to show, hey, MLS can be the thing for you guys to thrive in and to enjoy. And that's just the beauty of the sport in general. It's, it really does bring everyone together and fosters a community, I think, better than any other sport can. And, we have this opportunity in MLS to create that for so many people. So here in America. So that's kind of why I love the league so much.
Yeah, I really love how you almost have a necessity to do this. Mm-hmm. Like you found it early on when you went to that Beckham game, and from there it's just MLS. And it's really, really beautiful, because I relate in the same sense that, when I watched my first professional football game, I was like, oh, okay, I love this, and I can't stop thinking about it. And every time I watch a game, I come up with 100 different takes, but it just comes, and I can't. And that's why I started the podcast with Reynoso here, because it's like, I have to get it out. Mm-hmm. And I think the only way to do it is through the digital media. And I'm really happy that people have been able to, at least, whether they agree or not, that they're able to listen and enjoy the same takes that I have, or hate them as well. Like, it's so beautiful that you have a necessity for it in a very different way, but it's that same passion, that same drive for it. Yeah.
And I don't blame anyone for ever disagreeing with me. That's not what it's about for me. I don't try to convince people about certain things. It's just, as a whole, for me, I just love anyone who's willing to support MLS.
Yeah, you're right.
Even no matter what club, even LAFC fans, I say that to them a lot, because it's like, hey, we're big rivals, but at the end, we're rivals, not enemies. We're all in this together. We're all trying to make this league grow. And, for me, anyone who supports MLS is a friend of mine, whether it's a mutual thing or not, because LAFC fans would really want my head on a stick, but that's okay. Either way, like, I got love for anyone who loves this league and who's willing to give it a try.
Wow, yeah.
Do you have any other questions before I get into shotgun questions?
No, I think
shotgun.
Yeah. I wanted to come up with some questions that I just a quick yes or no, quick answer to it, maybe a sentence if you like, and then on to the next one, just to kind of get your thoughts on things even outside of the MLS
okay,
too.
I'll try to keep it quick.
Yeah. Okay, right. So here's the first one. Shotgun questions. I guess we kind of already know this one, but Messi versus Ronaldo.
Messi. Always, though. I've always been that way.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. Who's winning the World Cup in 2026?
Oh.
That's a heavy question.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Man, I haven't even thought about that. I'm so focused on, like, you literally, like you mentioned, semifinal. I'm like, U.S. is going to make the semifinal. I totally forgot about all the other countries.
Let's just say the U.S.
We can. I want to give a serious answer. Maybe with what happened with them and the underwhelming run that they had in 2022. Maybe Brazil could come back and win it. I think they might have got slapped in the face, and they're gonna come back stronger this time around. So I'll go with Brazil.
Damn, Neymar wins it, comes to the MLS right after.
Yeah, hopefully he's already there. But
he's already there. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm hoping right after his Saudi contract. But yeah,
outside of Messi, who's the second best player in the MLS now?
Hani Mukhtar, just because of what he's done over the last 3 seasons.
Okay, who's your favorite player
Of all time or currently?
Let's do all time.
All-time Lee Win, actually, from the New England Revolution, or Robbie Keane. Those are the 2 guys for me.
Okay, and right now,
What about right now? I'm
Ricky
curious.
Puig. I mean,
Ricky
he's tremendous.
Puig, man.
I love watching him. I actually, when he arrived in LA, I went to the airport to welcome him as with the supporters, and it was so cool to see him and just his personality and what the tenacity he brings to the league. It's just so good, and you guys got to see him play last night.
Bro, he went off last night. Completely dominated that midfield. Constant facilitation. Really good penetration. What I loved about his play last night, he was so patient. So patient, but he still had over 100 passes. And it's just crazy. Picks his moments really, really well, and then he has the ability to actually find that final moment pass.
He's that
so
dude.
good.
He is that dude.
Yeah.
second favorite sport?
Oh, basketball.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
same.
So then, Lakers fan or Clippers fan?
So I was actually born and raised into a Clipper household.
Damn.
Which is, I guess part of me never fitting in because I used to get bullied by Kobe fans, which, I love. I did like Kobe and whatever, rest in peace. But yeah, I grew up, actually, we always had Clipper season tickets because my grandparents wanted, the cheapest season ticket in LA for a sports team, and the Clippers at the time were, the garbage organization, the trash organization. No one cared about them, so very easy to get season tickets. So we've had those ever since '97. So yeah, I'm a lifetime Clipper fan. I was born in 2000, but '97, that's when we had them. So I grew up. So basketball has always been like a big thing for me, except for never the best player, and also so many other people cover it. There's thousands of people who do what I do for MLS for the NBA. So I just knew that was never going to be a market for me or like a space for me. But yeah, I've always been a Clipper fan, believe it or not.
Okay. Do you have a European club?
Yes, so technically they are European, but Maccabi Haifa, which is the Israeli Premier
team.
League. I have half my family, a lot of my family who doesn't live in LA, they live outside of Haifa. They're huge Maccabi Haifa fans. So yeah, huge on them. They beat Juve last year in one of the Champions League matches.
Yeah.
And then I'm a very, 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 very casual United fan, because a lot of my close friends are United fans, and they kind of beg me to just join them. And I wouldn't say that I sit down or I wake up every week to watch them. That's another thing. I have a hard time watching teams across the world, because on weekends I want to sleep in.
Oh yeah, that's why I record. Like, I have the same problem. I just accept that I'm not going to watch any of those games live.
Facts.
I guess the last question I'll ask is favorite beer.
Favorite beer?
Yeah.
Ooh. I wish I could say Body Armor has a beer, but they don't. You know what? I'll keep it Galaxy oriented. I feel like we're the Modelo Club, and I think just because, I associate that beer with the Galaxy, I'll say Modelo.
We had a couple Modelos during our stay here in LA, and they hit here.
Yeah. I feel like that's what we sell, and like so many Galaxy fans want them to be our next jersey sponsor. Like, it's just the right. Yeah, it really fits. It's just we have this Herbalife contract, whatever the fuck that is.
No clue.
Yeah. We thought we would get Ronaldo because of it, but we weren't. He's not coming to America for sure with his situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd say Modelo.
Perfect. Well, Eli, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on this show. An absolute honor. Please tell the people, where can they find your content?
Yeah, This Week in MLS on literally every platform. I have the same username. If you're going to follow me on one platform, I'd prefer it to be Instagram. But I'm on TikTok, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it. I hate that app. But Instagram would be the best place. And make sure you're following The Give and Go. If you're watching this right now, you probably already are. But yeah, I mean, I love what you guys are doing. And when you guys hit me up, I was super excited. Because I think you guys are also very unique in this space, and it's very cool to see you guys, doing what you're doing. But yeah, I appreciate you guys for having me out here.
Thank you thank you to Mujay for providing us with the beautiful art space to shoot this podcast in. We will see you guys soon. Reynoso Soltero out here in LA with Eli Lesser. Catch you guys later. Peace.
Peace.